Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and it's me and Ellie Holder and William tonight, and we're going to tag team the news. And I want to start off with the church shooter, Joel Olstein's. I'm not big on Joel Olstein. I have to admit, um, but we're starting to see many things happening in our churches. They have been going after the priests at the Catholic churches. They do chase nuns. Um, this is a part of the Muslim versus Christian. Now, what do we know about this shooting? Um, well, they say the little boy that was with her was her own son, and I believe, he has passed. Um, the suspect had a telling a message scrawled on the gun to report, they say. It said Palestine, and that's it. And now, if you hear free Palestine or uh, end the war, that's not true. The gun did say it was just Palestine on there. She fired multiple rounds in the Lakewood Church on Sunday and had pro-Palestinian slogan on the gun she used. Now, she's been in trouble before, folks. Let me see. I'm going to try to get her. Let's see.
Mugshot.
Well, no, I want to. She has been arrested before. Let me see. I might have to pull up my other tab.
5 times. Just 5 times.
And there was police officers that were off duty, but they do carry their guns, and thank God for that, because soon as it started, they were on her. Now her name is, she's 36 years old, Janice Marino, but she would rather be called Jeffrey Escalante. Okay. Um,
Ellie,
huh.
can I be a transition or two?
Sure.
I thought you'd at least try to dissuade me.
Oh, well, then no.
Post.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what she's done before. Failure to stop and give information to a police officer, quite a few assaults on public servants, assaulting, causing bodily injury. She's got it for forgery, the possession of marijuana, theft, and evading arrest, unlawful, and carrying weapons. So that's what she's been arrested for before. Yeah, now go ahead, William.
And also, she was, committed against her will by the police, and then had weapons.
Mm-hmm. So, and she wants to be called Jeffrey. Now, the whole thing about this, folks, is she was from El Salvador. Am I right, William? Or Ecuador? El Salvador.
I think it was El Salvador.
Yeah. Now, El Salvador, that is the home of the most vicious people you could possibly meet. And more than likely, she was a big part of that. And when Palestine, Hamas heard about this, they, of course, cheered. And it said, this is what we're about. It's, we are to eliminate the churches in America and to promote and kindly, they say, boy, William, kindly force us into Muslim.
Just like they do the Christians and Jews in Lebanon.
Yeah, just like they did there. And, they were even doing that over in the UK when the peaceful Muslims, and then, they wanted their temple, and then they wanted the churches, not so many churches. And
well, they did the same thing in the Philippines.
Yeah, that too. South America, they've done it too. Probably El Salvador too. Wherever they go. I mean, what got me was when LA started caving to them and put up a few mosques and basically chased the small churches. out of around it. Then, of course, we'll see no-go zones. Dearborn, Michigan's another one that pushed out the Christians. But see, that's okay with the squad. Um, and pretty soon, William, I'm thinking pretty soon it's gonna be 50-50 with us. Well, I'm not gonna say 50, I'll say 30% in our country that will be Muslim. That it's gonna be like over there in the Middle East.
In New York are they're demanding right now that America be a Muslim nation.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the same ones that were, protesting about.
I mean, I would love to see what they would do in China over the Buddhist, but I don't think they'll go there.
Well, the Uyghurs are Muslim, and they don't have a problem with putting them in concentration camps and, working them to death and then offing them.
Now,
but hey, Iran and China, one and the same.
Now General Flynn, he does I don't know if a lot of you know, he writes for the Western Journal, and he puts out a lot of really good articles. Have you seen the one with the Constitution about the war at the southern border, William?
Yeah, well, the Constitution demands that we protect the United States.
Yeah, protect its border with Mexico. And, Mayorkas could be going out. And then we even have Joe Biden getting mad saying, well, he might have to close the border to get votes. But
it's a pesky border, Ellie. We don't need it. Seriously, I mean.
And, they did it to really divert attention.
Deep in our airports with their Muslim friends and their Chinese communist friends. And
it's like this says, under Biden, military-aged men are pouring over the border from countries that despise our nation. Migrants on the terrorism watch list keep walking through with only a very
Ellie. It's okay. They're not Ukraine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Move along.
Yeah.
Nothing to.
And Flynn said, he held his breath waiting for Biden during the first 2 years when the Democrats enjoyed a majority of the House and tie in the Senate. I knew they weren't going to, I knew what they were going to do. And I knew once they opened it, they weren't going to close it. I just knew they would. And I knew they weren't going to go to the border either. Why? Why do they want to look at that? So.
Because they don't want us to look at that.
But
they're getting their friends across the border.
And we got Sarah Huckabee and a few other governors down there today supporting Governor Abbott. And he said they're ready. They're ready to go. They're ready to maybe even start a war with the cartel. Will it happen? Well, according to Mexico News, the cartel has already started firing on some of the cities just over the border. They're not going to go after the soldiers, just the townspeople.
Well, how do you know if they're firing at the cities over the border? Because they're so busy shooting each other. I mean, just rounds are falling.
Well, it was an article that was in, I believe it was Red State that talked about it. And it was a big war at the border, and it wasn't really a war with our troops. It was more them firing into cities like they have been to move in and take over to get that border secure for themselves, so not us.
People out for you to move in, right?
Yeah.
Push them out of the way.
And there's I think 23 23 governors that are supporting Abbott right now that is down there trying to push this. And, we know he installed razor wire, and that's kind of what this administration got upset about, wanted it removed. They put the buoys out. They wanted those removed. They said it would hurt and harm and drown the illegals. And this is a 30-mile stretch along the Rio Grande, and it's set up with floating barriers as well as razor wire. Now, so Abbott is ready, and the National Guard that he has from many states, especially from Arkansas, we sent ours down there to protect the border. I think it's going to be who throws the first stone, William.
So if these states want to protect their borders, they can't do it because Arizona and California are inviting them in. So these states need to protect their own borders.
Yeah.
Need to declare an emergency and don't let migrants cross into their borders. I'm serious. That's what needs to happen. Not just run down and help Abbott, but help out your own state.
Yeah. And the thing that gets me is that's really caused a stir with Biden's advisors. One, Susan Rice, claimed Becerra over the border, I guess, with some rage. And called her a couple bad names. And that's Susan Rice. And Biden and his temper are to blame for the border crisis, they say. So, and Mayorkas disagreed with Biden's 100-day halt on deportation. And now they have vocal immigrant advocates outside the Capitol and even the White House to try to get Biden to keep the border open. And there's a lot of tensions between Rice and Harris. Rice later told people she thought that Harris and the team were partly responsible for the opposition research that resulted in negative coverage of Rice, that she put her down too many times in D.C. in some of the political circles. Yeah, don't piss off Susan Rice. So the administration advisors.
We originally had so many folks coming across the border was, basically slave labor right here in the United States.
Yeah.
Businesses that want to hire Americans, and then, and that's how we ended up in China, back to slave labor again, and then Bangladesh, slave labor again. So our businesses are addicted to slave labor.
Yeah.
The first thing we need to do is these businesses that hire these undocumented, the CEOs, the board of directors, the company owners, they all need to go to prison.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
For endangering the United States.
And this deal with Susan Rice and this administration, it's been told even to some of the GOP and other Democrats, and they're all getting on TV talking about it, that they are like heated discussions with Biden too, and name calling. They're pointing the finger at everybody. They blame Buttigieg for not. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how they put it. For failing to keep up on bridges and waterways that go from Mexico up into the United States. Now, William, I think Mayorkas is going to end up out of there, but who do we put in place? Well, it's up to Biden.
It doesn't matter because Biden wants it to happen. It's part of the whole what Mr. McConnell said yesterday. It's part of the global order, and they're pro-global order, and Biden has to do, according to his backers, is the people that are donating to his campaign, that are, the oligarchs and the plutocrats here in the United States. They want cheap labor, damn it.
Yep. And, more and more we're starting to, when you call anything for pizza delivery or anything that's, you have to call an 800 number. You always get a foreigner. There was one that called me today. It took me 5 minutes for him to basically tell me he was with home insurance. I could not understand him. And it's not to be mean. I just didn't understand him.
They're Filipinos. Most of the large call centers in the world are run by Filipinos.
I didn't know that.
It's a really impoverished nation. And so, they make $1 or $2 a day doing this call center thing. It's back to slave labor. And these people all have to be college graduates, have an associate's degree, and bilingual, or the best they can find. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the Philippines here in a little while.
Yeah. Now I want to move on. This is kind of, there was 10. I believe Johnson was one of them. 10 House GOP has been asking the Biden administration, and they said they got the last chart from Trump. They said Obama didn't give the chart until his last year in office. Now they asked Biden for this as soon as he went in office. And what I'm talking about is 219 reported biological agents or toxins from biolabs in the United States. And this is according to 2019. Since 2019, they're refusing to hand over the documents and charts or any memos or anything research that's been done on this. Research meaning what are they making in these labs? So that's 200 and let's see if I believe I have a map here. No.
In the United States, we call a biolab a food safety lab.
Right.
I'm just joking. Or am I?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna. I have the map. This is from Zero Hedge, folks. So let's see. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to put this up for you guys to see. It's very important. This is very important.
Be sure and look at the map, Karen and Susan. I'm watching you here.
Now, the red is, oh boy.
The heat map.
Let's see. I think it's close to 30 in the red. Okay. And then we have 10 of them in the dark orange states, and 2 to 4 of them in the rest of the states. So I wish I could blow this up bigger.
Dangerous biolab. It looks like I'm going to have to go between North and South Dakota and Wyoming and Montana right on that square there, because that's where the fewest biolabs are.
All right, there we go. I got it bigger so you guys could see this. So The red is the ones that's got the most biolabs. So California, Texas, and it looks like New York and Massachusetts. I don't know what that state is. I'm bad at just knowing the
So
shapes.
that's New York.
Okay, so it is New York. And then we got Washington, the state of Washington, and a few others mid section. And Arkansas isn't one of them. And Tennessee, Alabama, Illinois. I believe that's Missouri, Iowa, and Colorado. I could be wrong on those, but I think I'm close.
Yeah, Kansas, Colorado.
But one biolab is bad enough here in the States, but 219 of them. And hello, DB, good to see you. Karen, look who's here, DB. He's on the Facebook channel. So
Did
that's.
you hear about up there in Alaska? Somebody just died from Alaska pox. You know, where they were digging up everybody that died from smallpox a couple generations ago. Surprised.
Yeah. Huh.
Don't know how it happens.
Is there going to, it almost makes you wonder if there's going to be individual state pox, state measles, But yeah, that's something that we definitely need to look at. And, I mentioned Buttigieg earlier. And some of these labs, come to find out, are very old. And they have to be revamped before they start leaking, as well as our nuclear. Our nuclear plant has not had no funding in decades. Are we going to be another Fukushima?
Well, they want them to be in the most populous states because, it's easier to make sure they don't leak as opposed to being out, in the middle of nowhere in the West where there's just, sands and sand fleas, right? But oh no, you got to go to the most populated states in the union because you can't have scientists having to be by themselves in those biolabs away from everybody else. I mean, they have families, right? Got to bring it home. Oops, William's sardonic today.
And I mentioned in the show notes about a hypersonic Zercon missile for the first time. Putin fired this in Ukraine. Russia fired the cruise missile for the first time. The director of Kyiv Scientific Research said they found evidence from the recent attack. Russia has used this missile for the first time, according to the experts.
That's a lie.
Huh?
That's a lie by the media. They fired them a year ago, and that's when we got all worried about hypersonic missiles.
That's what I thought.
We got to get them. We have to get them funding right now.
Well, the thing about it is, I think Ukraine is the one complaining about it. So they didn't complain last year, but they're complaining this year. The missile wreckage had characteristics of to a 3M22 Zercon missile, including the inscription 3L22 engraved on some of the fragments, as well as the number 26 on the bolts holding it together. The attack killed at least 5 people and injured more than 50. So hypersonics now moving in a new direction of war. We probably talk more on that on Thursday. We're going to do a World War III report Thursday. Yeah. Really? Look at, this is the first time in a long time you popped up on my page. Yeah, they've been blocking me badly, YouTube and Facebook. But we're here. So, Karen's been asking about you.
It won't work.
Huh?
I keep trying to block myself, but it just won't work.
Now we know Yemen's Houthi is still firing missiles at ships. Of course, Now they did hit an Iranian ship. Did you hear about that, William? I think it was a
Yeah,
oops moment,
it
wasn't
was
it?
a cargo ship that was headed for Iran, and they accidentally popped it.
Oops. Oh yeah, they're gonna go over there and what do they do? Isn't it? My brother-in-law was in Turkey. When you do things wrong, it depends on what you do or what they cut off. So maybe cut the fingers off of the guys that fired it.
Well, you know what a missile looks mostly like? Just saying.
Let's see, from the oh reckon, or is it reckon? I believe is what he said. Um, well, William, go ahead and get going on yours. I didn't want to take up a whole hour of my stuff, but
Yeah,
folks,
so
I want to say one thing though, William. Be very careful at church and keep your eyes open. If you belong to some of these huge churches, um, just keep your eye out because I mean, she came in with a trench coat and a long, was it a long rifle? Um, and
right, he came in with a semi-automatic long rifle of the 22 caliber Persuasion.
yeah, and I think once she pulled it out, and I think it was even before the first shot was fired. Those off-duty police officers had her. They had her. They did kill her. They took her out. All right,
It's
so
no fun to
let's
have to go
call
up
her
against a long
Jeffy.
rifle with a pistol.
She wanted to be called Jeffy. Okay, so go ahead, William.
Okay.
I'll sit and listen and add my 2 cents in.
So, we, of course, we know that McConnell, there in the Senate, sold the GOP down the river because, you know, it's not going to matter in election season, you know, because he's anti-Trump,
Mm-hmm.
pro-Irish
China.
American. And, you know, his family came here in 1814, just 2 years after the War of 1812, you know, just about the time the British had figured out that, gee, they're not making such great soldiers, so let's just send all the Irish to America and to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
It's a solid plan. It'll work. So they did. And what did we get out of it? Some guy that landed in New York that wanted to be in the Emerald Isles, so he went to Kentucky, and guess what? Yeah, we ended up with Mr. McConnell. Now, they asked McConnell about this whole funding and the border security in a conference at the Capitol at the Rotunda couple months ago, and he pretended he had a stroke, but actually he just didn't want to answer the question. So yeah, so I've been kind of looking at
Well, you know, with Mitch McConnell, he's had issues all along. I mean, he's kind of like Joe Biden. He's been in for a very long time, except for just a reminder to those watching that may not know, his wife and in-laws are all got companies in China, and he's been dealing with the Chinese. And now I've read a few times the CCP. So he has pretty much likes doing business. He's got, isn't it one of the big shipping fleets?
Right. COSCO, COSCO.
CO.
SCO.
Okay.
COSCO.
Is it?
Not like OST, COSTCO,
Right.
but COSCO.
So, and he's making. The thing about it, he's making money for the Chinese. He's not making money for the United States. To me, that's would be considered a traitor in a way. He should be impeached.
Yeah, but he's pro-globalist. I mean, he said that he's more worried about the global I forgot the name of it suddenly. Anyway, the global order, I'm sorry. And more than he is the United States, which is no surprise because, you know.
World Economic Forum, is that what you're talking about?
Huh?
The World Economic Forum, is that who you're talking about?
Right, but they call in Congress, if you're Republican, they call it the global order.
Yeah. Now, the other one, the other thing I want, and I told you this on the phone, I want to throw in there, folks, beware now on this. Don't keep falling for Senator Graham. Senator Graham sat and he hit the floor in total support of what the GOP wanted. But then when it came for the vote, he voted with the Democrats. And that's what Asa Hutchinson did here until we caught on to what he was doing. So, if I was Fox News, I would say, you're not coming on our show no more. Because that's where he always goes, is Fox News. He needs to be booed right out of there. So, all right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was looking at this global order and where it came from. Of course, we remember the Council on Foreign Relations, but there are other groups, right? And Victoria Nuland, the one that's been pushing this whole war in Ukraine and her family's from Eastern Europe, and she married a man by the name of Robert Kagan. And Robert Kagan and Bill Kristol, Bill Kristol of, I think he was part of the, maybe the Pentagon Papers. Anyhow, they started a project, a group called the Project for the New American Century. And it went on for quite a while until in the 80s or 90s, it got shut down. Anyway.
The other thing was that big manifesto, World Economic and Muslims also had this plan for the United States. They said they couldn't implement it for like 30 years. And I believe that was in the 80s. And it was, these two had it and they got captured, or the police got hold of them. That's how they found out about it. And then after that, it was all World Economic Forum that was promoting this.
So these folks are tied to Nazism, just so you know. But they're like Palestinians. They hate Christians. They hate Jewish people. And of these people, here's the group who signed for it. The beginning of, they call it PNAC. You probably heard PNAC on the television, but nobody ever says it's the Project for the New American Century. But of the 25 who signed, 27 went to the Department of Defense, 13 went to the State Department, 12 went to the White House, and 10 went to the National Security Agency. Oh, and by the way, it was George W. Bush, who was one of the founding individuals, as well as Jebediah Bush, both of Skull and Bones fame. Now, who are these people? So you've got Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld. There's no country we don't want to attack Rumsfeld. Paul Wolfowitz. Let's make some more money in armaments. John Bolton. Never seen a country he didn't want to attack. Steve Forbes. Let's get, be a plutocrat because we want to be, richer than Gates. Then you've got Frank Gaffney. You've seen him plenty of times. George Weigel, Vincent Webb, Henry Rowan, Stephen R. Rosen, Peter Rodman, Scooter J. Danforth Quayle, Aaron Fieldsberg, Francis Fukuyama, Midge Decter, Paul Dobrinsky, Fried Ike, Donald Kagan, which is, I'm guessing, Robert Kagan's brother or dad or something, Elliot Abrams, Gary Bauer, who ran for president at one time along with Jeb Bush, William J. Bennett, John Ellis, Elliot Cohen. Have you heard of this guy? I'm not sure if anybody's ever heard this guy's name before. John McCain. Then you've got the Prince of Darkness, Richard Pearl, Michael Goldfarb, Giselle Donnelly, Alan Bort, Timothy Lehman. You guys ever heard of Lehman Brothers and the collapse in 2008? Randy Schumann. Yeah, well, they kind of got caught being not so morally clarified and wasting American strength. So they started a new group called the Foreign Policy Initiative. And you probably heard of Dan Senor, Christopher Griffith, Joe Lieberman, Jamie Fly. He ran the Marco Rubio Florida Senate race, Eric Edelman. And, you know, these are the folks that wanted to have the IAEA with Iran, right? These are the same folks that want to smash Iraq and Syria to get back at Iran. And in the process, you know, drive Egypt and Libya out of whatever. Now we also have to look at the Atlantic Council, and that'll be next week. But these guys are all tied directly to
the Atlantic Council. Isn't that the one that is part of Bilderberg, and then as well as the foreign affairs,
Council on Foreign Relations? Yeah, all of these are
foreign
tied
relations.
to
There you go.
Bilderberg. And Klaus Schwab's outfit, they're all tied to Klaus Schwab's outfit as well. Now, moving on to the poison pill that Mr. McConnell signed with Chuck Schumer. According to Rand Paul, the reason why they set the bill up this way is to make sure that if Trump gets into office, he won't be able to stop this war with Ukraine for another 24 months from now. And also, if Speaker Johnson takes it up, it's a poison pill for him too politically. So this was all set up not by Schumer, by McConnell.
Yeah, Schumer's a dummy. I mean, I've talked to a lot of his aides, and they just paint him as a dummy, him and Adam Schiff.
Well, Schumer does what he's told. It's whatever is good for the European New World Order. They're the ones that are tied to Brussels.
So.
Okay, so let's move on. It turns out that there's a place called UNRWA. It's the United States Relief for Palestine, right? And it turns out that they had an Al Jazeera reporter in Israel that turned out to be part of Hamas. And under the UNRWA headquarters in Gaza, there was a deep shaft and server farms and communications equipment in a tunnel below it. Now, that tunnel below it had battery backup, it had everything you needed for electricity, but all the communications cables went right straight up through UNRWA building, and all the communications were being sent out by the United Nations on behalf of Hamas. And oh, by the way, the guys are down there eating UN rations. So that's a surprise. Now today, Al Jazeera is very upset. They had one of the, and it's gruesome. So there was some journalists trying to help a girl in Rafah, and they got rocketed, and the correspondent and cameraman were both hurt. The girl was killed, and I couldn't tell whether it was the correspondent or it was his cameraman, but we got to see on the internet that he had his legs blown right off. And you could see, you know, the flapping dead skin going gray and all that fun stuff. It was wonderful.
Wow.
Hey, but YouTube didn't censor it, so that's good, right?
They just don't
It's
want
not
Mrs.
gruesome.
Claus.
It's not gruesome to see somebody, you know, squirting blood out of both stumps, right, Ellie?
You know,
Okay,
I'm
just so I-
surprised they do that because they won't even let deer hunters show how to cut up a deer on YouTube. It's not allowed. It's too
Yeah, but
vicious.
they weren't in Gaza.
Yeah.
They're not in Gaza.
They have to go to Gaza to cut the deer. I'm teasing.
Yeah, you have to go to Gaza. Then it
Yeah.
would be okay, because then it would show that all the Gazans are starving to death and have to kill Bambi.
Yeah.
So
I think they already ate them all.
now, on a lighter note, Israel was able to drop their special forces by helicopter and fast rope them on the top of the building. The special forces made their way down to the second floor, quietly blew open a cement door. So these are steel lined outer door frames with a concrete center. So they blew the door open. They got involved with complete gun battle with hostage takers inside. They took those guys out before the hostage takers could take out the hostages. Then they protected the hostages with their bodies until reinforcements could catch up with them. And then they extracted 2 hostages out to Israel by helicopter. So that's really good news.
Yeah. Well, you know, more and more they found those. I think this is what, the 3rd compound they found? Or is it?
Well, they had some where the hostages were trying to get away, and they ran into the Israeli army that had just been involved in combat, and they took out some of their own hostages. So that's fog of war stuff, kids. Next, our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, has had to check back in.
Oh, that's right.
Complications to bladder, right, infection. Yeah. So he's back in the hospital at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in D.C.
Now he did turn. What I liked about this whole thing is he did turn the power over to someone else when he went in. He didn't go in there and try to lie to everybody.
So he transferred the duties over to his deputy by the name of Dix. Now, I'm not sure if Dix is actually in the command structure from the president, but okay, so that's going on. And then, so because Secretary Austin can't make it to Brussels to the European Common Defense Group meeting, he's sending a secretary. I believe he's sending Julie Smith, the secretary, the NATO secretary, And there's going to be secretaries of defense from 50 other nations there too. So we're going to have kind of a lightweight there on behalf of the United States. Now, it is, part of it is done online, and so Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will be involved with that group online. So
shouldn't he?
That's the good.
You know, with all this going on, because usually they make a general kind of step down when they start having too many medical issues. So that's what I was hoping for, is they would have him step down and put someone else in. You know, instead of, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen when he gets out of the hospital this time. He might not be in good enough shape.
I think he's the only defense person that they can trust in the White House right now. So that's why he's still there. Now, we just passed in the Senate the reauthorization bill. Currently, we're sending lots of weapons to Japan. We're sending weapons to the Philippines and, of course, to Taiwan, formerly known as Formosa. And so a lot of money is coming into these nations. Well, Japan's a fairly rich nation, and so is Taiwan. But the Philippines is an incredibly poor nation. So if you've got people call you on the telephone that sound Latin a little bit, the Philippines used to be a Spanish colony, and because it's so poor, they hire a lot of these folks that work at call centers, right? They're in the Philippines. Yeah. So there's that going on. Now, because of the money that's going into the Philippines currently, there's a number of islands in the Philippines. There's like Leyte, there's Mindanao, there's a bunch of different islands. Now, if you didn't know it already, according to TLDR Global News, Rodrigo Duarte was former president of the Philippines. Now, you probably heard of Duarte, and you probably heard of Marcos. Yeah. And so Marcos Jr. and Duarte's wife, Sarah, are power sharing for the government right now. But Rodrigo Duarte has just come out and accused former President Marcos has come out and accused Duarte of being hooked on drugs and whatnot. Anyway, there's a spat going back and forth, and the island of Mindanao, where Marcos lives, is now trying to secede from the Philippines. Now, what does that mean? It means an island in the middle of the Philippines, surrounded by islands, right, will be there for the to sell to the highest bidder, i.e. China. Take the Philippines out of the U.S. sphere of defense. And so that's happening internally within the Philippines, and it's starting to really spool up. Yeah. And it's just bad, dude, all the way around. Now, back to Gaza and ILTV News. Oh, I just told you about that with the Special Forces, the Black Hawk helicopter, except for the hostages were two men, one 60 in his 60s, one in his 70s. Okay. Dateline San Francisco. This is important. There's an automobile that has been manufactured by Google called the Waymo, and it's a self-driving car. And it turns out a Waymo is driving through Chinatown at night and upset the folks there. So, you know, they had to bust the windows out, become involved in a protest, and of course burn it in the street. So, and also they were using homemade mortars to bomb it. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, we don't want that car in San Francisco.
So the two groups that were involved were of European and Chinese ethnology. Yeah. All right. Oh, here's big. This is big. This is big. This is big, big, big. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and I guess the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs found Taylor Swift and decided to run a whole psyop to get people invested in Taylor Swift, which is, of course, the secret weapon of
yeah.
Mr. Biden.
It was a pretty good game, though, William, because, you know, everybody was, my family roots for the 49ers. I'm not a big Niner fan, but,
yeah,
you know, they tied up. It was like they got ahead, and then all of a sudden the Chiefs got ahead, and then like the last few minutes they tied up, and then everybody thought the 49ers were going to come back and just waste them. And oddly enough, the Chiefs took it.
I think football's about as true or honest as wrestling myself.
Yeah, I almost just watch it for the Super Bowl commercials. I don't even like the halftime show. It got so weird. I didn't even want to watch it anymore. But I honestly, folks, I did not watch it. I watched excerpts of it and listened to a lot of it. So, because I was going to report on it yesterday if I would have had my show, but I wasn't doing good. So, but it was, I think it was, you know, for we're coming back from the pandemic and everybody's starting to get back into the sports again. I think it was wonderful about the Super Bowl. Now, how about the Olympics? Let's straighten them up because I love the Olympics.
Well, it was a real feel-good, you know, psyop, if you ask me. But I guess it was a fairly interesting football game. And then I'm trying to find the guy's name here. Oh, I can't find it, can I? Oh, Travis Kelce. Of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's the one that went full Elvis with Taylor Swift there in front of the camera, which was, you know, a pretty big public display of affection, according to the Wall Street Journal. And, of course, Biden's secret weapon. Next. Ukraine fired General Zelensky and has been replaced as head of the Ukraine army because, well, Zelensky's getting paranoid. That's a surprise. RNC, Republican National Committee, you know, Ronna, looks like she's on the out, and maybe she can retire with her uncle. Thank God. Anyway, Trump's thinking about putting his daughter-in-law, Lara, in charge of the RNC, which she's really good with money.
Yeah, daughter-in-law?
Daughter-in-law, yeah.
Yeah, because she was thinking about running for office, but, you know, after what they've done to the family, they just all, like, is taboo almost. So,
Yeah.
um,
And there's some talk that Biden may not keep running, and thank God Vice President Harris has come out and said she's ready to assume the role of president and cites her capacity to lead. And
well, did you
and
hear
when
about the
asked,
minus on Harris? I
well,
think it was
I'm so
Politico.
thankful she'll be president because she's an anchor baby.
Yeah. When Politico, I believe it was Politico, first did the poll on her, they pulled it. It was according to, um, it was Zero Hedge and I believe a Breitbart is what they said. It was only out for about 15 minutes before they yanked it because it was a minus 30 for her to be to take over the role of president for Biden.
Well,
Minus.
she gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. I'll feel safer. I don't know about you.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to choke on that.
So anyway, William, you about done? We're sitting on the hour, and
yeah, I've got some other stuff here, but we'll go through really, really quick.
okay.
The president and the first lady. The first lady threw an absolute fit in the Oval Office the other day because somebody didn't stop the president from going out and answering one of the questions after that report came out from the special counsel through the DOJ. But of course, they're not going to try him because he's the senile old guy that everybody would tend to like in a courtroom. So they didn't think that they could get a conviction on him. So yeah, we'll just let it go at that. And now that MSNBC has come out against Biden, he threw a tantrum in the White House. Now, if any of you think that for even a moment Biden will step down, it's all he's ever known. Is he going to do it for the good of the country? Think about it. He's not going anywhere unless they try.
I think if they just told him that he was still president, I think he'd be happy. Even though there'd be a different president, just keep him away from the TV for a while. I think he would be okay with it. I just don't think he's all there anymore. I think
let's be honest.
It's sad.
This isn't about Biden. This is about his son, his brother, and Jill.
Yep.
Jill needs it. All right, I'll let you guys go. Be sure and like, subscribe. Ellie, thanks for letting me help out a little bit, and I'll see you Thursday or
right Thursday. We are hoping to bring the World War III report on Thursday. It spaces it out enough for me to get strong enough again to come back in and do a show. And I'll be back with a little bit of a show before the World War III report, and of course trivia on Friday. So, all right, William. Great show, I think. And
I was happy that I got to see DB's comment.
Yeah, everybody's been missing DB. Everybody's been asking, where'd he go? And I said, I see him. I don't know why he's not in here, and he said he just now got a pop-up on it. I think I finally swam through all of the fines and the strikes and the blockages from Facebook that they're letting people see me again. So I just I gotta keep my nose clean,
Yeah, thanks to Karen for helping out in the chat room, and it's nice to see Susan as well.
Yes. So, Okay, with that, folks, subscribe and hit the like button. Ring the bell and be sure to hit the follow on Investigators Facebook so that you'll be notified. They're being really weird with it, and I know other platforms are having the same issue and having to remind everybody to ring the bell, ring the bell. So ring my bell, and we will see everyone on Thursday. Have a wonderful Tuesday and Wednesday. Get over the hump of the week, and we are in the last few months of this administration, hopefully.